Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Velocity Kinetics. It's been a little while. Not gonna lie, I've had some problems with motivation to do these and running out of ideas. Combination of running out of ideas in the sense of, well, it's been one person, it's hard to think of what you could, well, hard to remember what, well not hard to remember, hard to keep a track of what you've done versus what you want to do against what time you've got to record and edit and so on. And would you believe it, I want to go out and the washing machine's just kicked onto its final spin cycle. All the work uniform is in there and I don't really want to come back from where I've got to go within a few minutes. But anyway, where am I? What was I doing? Oh yes, so today I'm off out to my village's local fair. Sarah is first aiding it. Now, to be brutally honest, I don't want to go. I've done enough village fairs for my life with when my dad used to work when he was a vicar. I've got to be honest, a lot of people seem to think they're quaint and charming little things, but actually they're not, in my opinion. They're run by the same usual toffs who have the same usual things. They try and use all their influences as much as they can to get things done the way they want it done, because that's the only way it can ever possibly be done. And then it is also the people who've got a lot of time to give to the village, but then everyone is somehow expected to participate in their time. But Sarah's first aiding it. I better put in an appearance, otherwise I'll get into trouble. And my landlord is also there, one of the fucking toffs of the village. But yeah, he's one of the toffs of the village, and I better also put an appearance because I live right next door to him, and if Sarah's there and I'm not, trouble may brew. But there are going to be some vintage cars there, apparently. So we'll have a shufty round them and see what pictures we can take, what video we might be able to record, see if we can even speak to an owner about things, about what they're presenting. I don't know what classic car club is going to be there. Sorry, I haven't time warped into the 1980s. This is what my landlord deems as an acceptable kitchen. Long past its service life. But yeah, I don't know much about the car club that's going to be there. It's sort of a classic car club. Now, there are quite a lot of classic cars around here. There are a couple of long-nose E-Type Jags, Mark 1s in particular, I've seen around. There's a couple of, because we've got the air bases near where we are, near Mildenhorn Lake and Heath. Sometimes there's the classic American muscle that turns up. I've seen a bunch of the classic pickups lurking around and driving about. We've also got classic farm vehicles, traction engines, because where we are, Charles Burrell traction engine makers is only in Thetford, which is not that far away. So where we are has actually got quite a good history of this sort of thing. So yeah, we'll see what we can see. Hopefully it doesn't turn out to be too much of a pain in the arse. But there we are. So I will see you there. So after a few weeks, I've put together the rest of this video for the classic cars I saw at my local village show. It is a couple of weeks later because I have not felt very well. Had an absolute stinker of a cold. I was worried it was COVID for a little while. Still got a horrible cough, but testing myself day and night, and it not COVID. So on the one hand, please, it's not COVID, but I wouldn't have said no to at least 5 days away from work. But there we are. You might quickly go, well, why didn't you enjoy your village fair and haven't spent time around my landlord, which we have not been getting on with very well recently. And I kept getting the stink eye off lots of customers who used to frequent the bank I worked in, which is now closed, or its branch is closed, which is infuriating because it was a decision not within my pay grade, made by people far higher up the company than I am, not necessarily as in touch with the local situation as anyone else, but not my issue. I was just a deputy manager there, but there we are. So anyway, there are a few decent cars at this fete. Now I do apologise if you hear a bit of clicking back and forth. Since I changed over to the A52 phone, it isn't working the way I like all my other phones to do. My other phones automatically upload everything, automatically uploaded everything to my OneDrive, and I can just view it anywhere. Unfortunately, that's not the case now, so I have to sort of faff about back and forth to see what I want. I also realised I might have accidentally set my camera to half view, but there we are. So, go through the pictures in order, all the cars as I saw them in order. So first we had an AC, what was labelled as an AC Cobra. I didn't hear it fire up. There weren't many owners at least standing by their cars to be able to talk to them about them. They were there, they were around, but where is another thing altogether. Now you can't go wrong with an AC Cobra. I mean, long nose, short tail, convertible, or just roofless, I don't know how you put it. There is something just right, and it's got a 427 in it, at least according to the badges, but to be honest, I don't know why people would put those badges on and lie about it. It's not like you're driving a Mercedes diesel saloon and put an AMG badge on thinking that everyone will be fooled by the diesel rumble as V8 rumble, which no one is falling for that, mate. But it was a lovely example of a car. I love the colour of it and how gorgeous it was. The interior, oh my god. If I ever win the lottery, or Velocity Kinetic gets enough money to be able to acquire something like this, I mean, realistically, probably not at the rate we're going, but there we are. It just unbelievably good looking in my opinion. Sort of, like I said, just classic sports car dimensions. So iconic. Then next to it was something labelled as a Cobra 2. Sorry, that is my PC telling me it's downloaded. Actually, I'll just also say I've got the back door open because it's very hot in this cottage at the moment, so you might hear wind noise, and I've got a fan on to try and move the wind around because, again, noise, but there we are. So we've got a Cobra 2, which looks a bit like a Mustang in many ways. I like the number plate because for Vox. I don't know whether it's anything to do with amplifiers I use. I use a Vox amplifier with my electric guitar setup. Classic white and blue Ford stripes. I couldn't really see very much inside this car when it was parked. It was a nice car. We do have a lot of Americans around where we are, and we've got the two big air bases. So then we had the classic sports car next to it, and classic English sports car. Couldn't really get round it. It was a Triumph, I do believe, the sports car. Can't really go that wrong with a Triumph. Now, next to the Triumph was a Cadillac hearse, and personally, I thought it was in poor taste. Combination of having it there at the fete and things, but then again, people's taste is variable. There's not really an awful lot I can say about it. It didn't even have a coffin in the back. Then we had a Ford Pinto next to that. Now the Pinto, I've only ever heard of it as a car that likes to explode a lot because of where the bolts for the rear bumper are. Slightest jolt in the back, you then get a slight crack in the gas tank, which then heats onto the diff underneath it, which then causes the car to catch fire. There are better examples of classic cars around, as in there's something better than a Pinto, but not going to say too much about it because it's a double-edged sword. Because on the one hand, people go, "Oh, it's a Pinto. Why couldn't you have got a Mustang? Why couldn't you have done this? Why couldn't you have done that?" The truth is, it is a classic car that someone has taken the time to preserve and clearly loves it. Probably rectified its other problem, but there we are. Then we have a piece of classic British car next to it. We have a Wolseley. If you watch a lot of things like Heartbeat, which is an old British program, that's probably where you'd see a lot of them. I do apologise about occasional things and thumbs and pictures. I'm getting used to the camera arrangement on this A52. It's got 5 lenses on the back, but a nice big piece of classic English car, the Wolseley. Sort of a rich man's Ford Anglia in many ways in its shape. Bit more exclusive than I understand the Rover, equivalent Rover was at the time. But like I said, beautiful example, lovely red interior. Could not knock it. Then we had a Chevrolet Camaro with Detroit plates, which probably came from Well, obviously it came from the States, but probably came from the local airbase. The car club did have some top trump cards out, so we got some details about what it could do. Got an interesting holy arrangement on the bonnet. I've never seen it like that before, unless it's got a supercharger on it when it's normally naturally aspirated. I don't honestly know. Like I said, there weren't any owners around. I was expecting them to be occasionally fired up and hear a bit of V8 rumble and things, but no, didn't get anything like that. Not sure I care for the intake thing covered in clowns, but again, taste is individual. Up to that. Aside from that, I actually quite like that Camaro. But when you read the numbers on the Top Trumps card, it does make you realise how, in some ways, some of those American engines are incredibly weak compared to some of their European counterparts. I appreciate though if Europe grew with oil in such abundance and such easy access as like America has, and the need for America was able to just do everything in straight lines, we probably would have a similarly weak engine. There was no need to focus on power over lightness over power, and so on and so forth. Then we had a Corvette Stingray. Always got a time for these ones because, well, it's hard not to like a Stingray. It's just, there's just something about its shape. I think some of it's to do with its long nose and that double pop-up headlight arrangement. Really did scream classic America with it. I'm sure someone said it was a Batmobile. Could be wrong. I'm sure, was it Tony Hawk who said it in an interview on Top Gear USA? Said it was like the Batmobile. But nice example. I wouldn't want to try fueling it at the moment at the cost of petrol, but that's a separate video coming out in the next couple of weeks. That's like a gorgeous example. Then we had a VW Scirocco, an original Scirocco. There's not really a lot I can say about the Scirocco because I didn't really. I don't know. I think for its generation there are better cars than that Scirocco to rave about, such as its Alpha rival Alpha. I think it was the Alpha Sud, if I remember rightly. But again, clearly a cared for example, well looked after, gorgeous condition, high praise to whoever's looked after it and kept it in such good nick. Because next to it there was a modern Scirocco shape that's obviously been slammed. It's got some chin spoilers. It had some kick-ass speakers in the back. For me, not my favourite thing at all. Not my cup of tea. If you're going to do that to it, then I think there are better things you can do to the Scirocco. Don't even know what was running under the bonnet. It might have been a 4-point, it might have been a V6. I don't honestly know. But again, it's clear someone has looked after it. It's one of these things when it comes to classic car shows or just people exhibiting their cars. Whilst there might be things you don't like for instance, I didn't care for either Cadillac hearse or either Scirocco. There are people there who would like them, and you can't take away from the fact that they clearly love their cars and have looked after them a lot. Then we came on to a monster, what I think they call a land barge. And I'd say it is because you could practically land a helicopter on the back of that. I think it was a Plymouth, if my memory serves me correctly, or was it a Chevy? I couldn't tell you what it is. But classic Americana. The white wall tyres are so iconic. The chrome work on it, even sort of getting a little bit the fins from the cat, remind me sort of like 60s Cadillacs, basically things like the Esterada and the Coupe de Ville. Just, I say, it's just really, really nice example. Again, clearly loved, clearly maintained. Again, didn't hear what it was rumbling under that bonnet, but some of the chrome work underneath was fantastic. Then we come to two classic pieces of British. Well, you'd say British, but it's because they were sort of made iconic by TV series Minder, among a few other things. You've got, and I think maybe the Sweeney as well, the Ford Capri. You could argue in many ways the Ford Capri was the British muscle car. Now I didn't get very many pictures of the Capris because I think that both owners were there talking in deep conversation. I didn't really want to get too close to taking too many pictures, more as in if they didn't want to be accidentally caught in a picture anymore than they might have already been. That's up to them. But again, two clearly loved examples of the Capris, both the 2.8s. They're I guess in the UK at least they are classic car staples. Just amazing bits of kit. And then there was, as I said, there were two Cadillac funeral cars. Then the silver hearse was advertising funeral services and saying it was available to do funeral runs and things like that, which I thought was in pretty poor taste myself. Don't really care for it. Although to be fair, it was a Cadillac hearse that Murdoch popped out of. Coffin popped up. He popped out the coffin in the title sequence. It might have been the second series of the A-Team or the third series, but there we are. So there are some more classic car shows going on around my area. There's one in Culford coming soon, which I might try and go to and see what we can do in relation to that. However, last year it was very popular. It was taking people hours to get in, sort of almost to the point of allegedly people were leaving the queue and going home because they'd waited so long to get in. It was nuts. It's probably the best way to put it. I would always recommend I would always suggest, having been to a couple of car-related shows. I think there's only two I've been to. I think, especially with this current push to go towards electric and hybrid, not to knock the Swace or its similarly powered brethren, but I think we've got to do what we can to support the petrol community, because especially at the price petrol's going up at the moment, more and more people either aren't going to be able to exhibit these cars, or they're going to get them to place on the back of a low loader. Now, some of them might have to come on the back of a low loader because they can't be insured to drive on the road, which is fair enough. But you don't want that to be the default option, and then you still got to pay for the fuel for the low loader. So, who knows? But anyway, I hope people have enjoyed this little, I don't know what I would even class this video as, but there we are. It's the first for nearly 2 months, I know that much. So, take care of yourselves, drive safe, and we will see you in the next video.